In today's show, the Blazers get their most important loss of the season. The chase for ping pong balls picks up steam with an important loss to the Pacers in Indianapolis. Open Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Blazers your first listen every single day. It's free on all platforms, 5 days a week, coming at you every single weekday. Make it a part of your daily routine and make it your first listen every single day. Since we last spoke, the Blazers got a impressive competitive loss in Brooklyn, where they looked pretty good for most of it until they ran out of talent, and then they got a crucially important L in Indiana, falling to the Pacers in what I'm calling their most important loss of the season. Plus, we'll take a look to close the show at the race for the bottom of the standings. The Blazers currently with the 7th worst record in the NBA, and 5th is in their sights, but it might not be close enough for them to grasp. First, let's start with that game against the Nets. We'll talk about the Nets game, talk about the Pacers game, and we'll talk about ping pong balls. Let's talk about that game in the West. Talk about that game in Brooklyn. Fastest recap in the West. Blazers lose that one 128-123. Legitimately pretty darn entertaining game. The Blazers blew the game open, or at least blew up in the second quarter. 42 points on the road in Barclays in the second quarter to take a 75-62 lead into halftime. They just looked really good. I think the second quarter was about as well as they've played in a couple weeks. Justice Winslow's flying around, CJ Ellby's flying around. They just played really hard. They didn't play super hard against the New York Knicks in their first game on Wednesday in New York City. They switched boroughs. They headed to Brooklyn, and they just played better against the Nets team. The Nets, without Kyrie Irving in this one because he doesn't play in home games, without Ben Simmons because he doesn't play professional basketball, and Seth Curry and Kevin Durant brought them home, but it was the Blazers up 13 at the break, and that lead ballooned to 18 early in the third quarter. Drew Eubanks hits a little running hook, one-handed push. Blazers a minute and 20 seconds into the second half, they're up 18 in Brooklyn, and then the Nets woke up. From there, the Nets just roared back, tied 101 after 3. So from down 18, the final 11 minutes of the quarter, they make up the 18-point deficit, and then they rip off a 10-0 run to start the fourth quarter. The Nets do, and they never trailed again, and the Blazers never had the ball down a single possession in the fourth quarter. So from that Drew Eubanks hook shot until the Nets ripped off that 10-0 run, and the Blazers had to take a timeout, down 111-101 early in the fourth quarter. That was a 47-19 surge in 12 minutes and 43 seconds. Basically a quarter of basketball outscored 47-19. 13 minutes outscored 47-19. That's the difference in the game. That right there. The Blazers were really good, and then the Nets were better. That's your normalist speed recap in the West because we got a little slow in the middle there. 128-123. Blazers lose that one. Of note in this game is that Chauncey Billups went for it. This was a game he was absolutely unconditionally trying to win. Keon Johnson didn't play in this game. Greg Brown did not play in this game. Josh Hart played 39 minutes. Brandon Williams played 37 minutes. They went for it. They tried to win. Hart was great. 25 points, 5 boards, 7 assists, finished 9 of 18 from the floor, hit 3 of 8 threes. Brandon Williams continues just to be really hard to stay in front of off the dribble. If you don't have a good guard to stay in front of him, he is going to get past you. He's an offensive player with some juice. I don't know that he has he plays on the team with Anthony Simons and Damian Lillard. I don't know that he has what his future necessarily looks like here in Portland, but he could play. I think he's pretty much proved that he's an NBA player. What his role might be, little scoring point guards, it's always tough to stick in the league because you're always going to be shorter and you're always going to be an offense first guy. And it's hard maybe to be a role player who's an offense first guy. But Brandon Williams can absolutely score in the league. He finished with 24 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals against the Nets. He was really, really good. Ben Mcmoore came off the bench. He hit 5 threes, finished with 17 points. Like I said, No Greg Brown, no Keon Johnson in that game on Friday. The Blazers went for it. They tried to straight up win this game. They, and some of it may have been dictated by how good they were in that second quarter, and then how it was still kind of competitive in the third. And it's like, we're not going to bring Keon in. If you didn't play him in the first, rotation, you're not going to play him in the second rotation end of the game. I got to say, I don't agree with that. I want to be clear. Keon and Greg should play. They should always play. It shouldn't be a question. At this stage in the season, there is no reason that Ben Mclemore gets minutes over Keon Johnson. I get it. The Blazers got walloped by the Knicks on Wednesday, and they didn't play very hard. And it's like you just want them to get, no one wants to go to work and lose. I think before the game and after the game, Chauncey Billups is down with the plan. But once the game starts, he wants to win just like anyone else. I don't see that as even like controversial or anything. Like he wants to win when the game happens. That's what you saw against the Nets on Friday, not playing the young guys. To me, that's not cool. Play. No reason Ben Mclemore plays. You want to lose. Even if B-Mac is like significantly more valuable, significantly better, significantly more impactful on the court, which I think he is. Like I think he's just straight up way better than Keon Johnson as like a guard who could help you win a game. The Blazers aren't trying to win a game, and Keon needs those developmental minutes, or at least I think those developmental minutes are more valuable given to Keon Johnson. Get him in there and find some minutes for Greg Brown. Have them be bad. That's like, if there's ever been a time to do that, it's now. On the Nets side, 38 points for Kevin Durant on 11 of 15 shooting. Blazers had nobody who could guard him. I thought Justice Winslow did a good job of trying to slow Kevin Durant down. You can't not do that with one person. You certainly cannot do that with one person who's 6'5". He's the best scorer in the league, and he certainly looked like it. Seth Curry finished with 27 points. He was 7 of 11 from three. 7 3-pointers, did a bunch of damage early in that 10-0 run in the fourth quarter, hit a big three to make it to dot the 10 on the 10-0 run. That was the difference in the game, is that 13-minute stretch where this is just the Blazers ran out of talent. You cannot fault their effort, cannot fault how hard they played or anything like that. I don't even think you can fault, like I'm faulting the coach for not playing players who are worse, but like, they went out to try to win this game, and basically they were there until it's a talent league, and the Nets flexed how good they are offensively and won this game. That was Friday evening. The Blazers finally left New York City after 3.5 days in New York. Finally left New York and went to the Midwest, where they played the Indiana Pacers on Sunday, and they got their most important loss of the season. If Friday was a heartening loss, because the Blazers played well, they played hard, and they just ran into it, like you just like, oh, yeah, it's hard to slow. This team's good, and Andre Drummond's too big, and all these things. If Brooklyn was a reminder of sort of this team can still play hard and compete. Sunday's game was the reminder that, like, boy, is it nice to be able to just root for a loss, because they got throttled by a not very good Indiana Pacers team, and it was their best, most important loss of the season. That's what we'll talk about in the second segment. But first, I want to tell you about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar in the market, and the best tasting protein bar that there is. If you're looking in my pantry, you're going to see cookies and cream. You're going to see peanut butter brownie, just two of the great flavors. But they also come in coconut almond, double chocolate, salted caramel, mint brownie, raspberry, and some limited time flavors. And your average Built Bar has 17 grams of protein, 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and just 4 net carbs. All tasty, all healthy. Go get yourself some at built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15 so you can get 15% off. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. All right. Let's keep it rolling. The Blazers lose to the Brooklyn Nets. We did one fastest recap in the West, and this is probably the first time we've ever done this on the show. Your second fastest recap in the West here in the second quarter. Here in the second segment, the Blazers lose 129-98 in Indiana on Sunday. Justice Winslow did not play in this game. He was sat out with Achilles soreness, and so the Blazers roll out. CJ will be back into the starting lineup, and all they do is they get handled in the first half. Could not guard the Indiana Pacers in the first half. They're down 69-48 at halftime. Just a big old nice deficit, down 21 at the break. And then in the final 5 minutes of the third quarter, they kind of find themselves. Josh Hart gets going, and they get a little rhythm. They close the quarter, the final 5 minutes of the third quarter on an 18-6 run, and all of a sudden they're down 94-82. Now, still down double digits, all those things. Like, they're a long shot from getting there, but they had, if you are to believe it, some momentum heading into where they needed to go. Like, this was all of a sudden like, okay, this game is going to be competitive. And then the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter just kind of ended any chance for that game to be competitive. The Pacers rip off a 20-7 run to open the fourth quarter in the first 5 minutes. The Blazers all of a sudden find themselves, it's a 12-point game. They're right in it, and then you give up a 20-7 burst. I mean, it's not even a run. It's just like the Pacers scored 20 points in the first 5 minutes of the quarter, and the Blazers scored maybe like a normal number of points in the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. So from down 12 to down 25, there was actually a timeout, and the Pacers come out of the timeout and score again. So it was really 22-7, but I'm not counting that timeout. So the Blazers find themselves down 27. Like, the game's over. It's just all of a sudden over. It was over before that. Like, it was over in the middle of the second quarter when the Blazers were down more than 20, and it was like, okay, this is kind of. Let me finish this up. Let me give fastest recap in the West. Hart did not play in the fourth quarter. I think he was going to come back in, and then it got out of hand. I was critical of Keon Johnson and Greg Brown not playing in the game against the Nets. They certainly played on Sunday with no Justice Winslow in the lineup. They played all 12 minutes and finished out that fourth quarter. The Blazers just didn't go back to their best player, Josh Hart. That's your fastest recap in the West. This is what I was saying is before I didn't want to get cut up and I didn't want to do two slowest recaps of the West, y'all. I didn't want to screw up my own branding. That's your fastest recap in the West. But what I was saying was, this is kind of what a bad team is in the NBA. They're capable of being pretty competitive, like you saw them against the Nets. Obviously, that there was some rotational stuff that changed there, and having Justice Winslow makes them better. Like, they're better with Winslow, and Chris Dunn had his best game, probably just like floor game against Brooklyn in terms of like defense and stuff. He was probably better against the Knicks, honestly, but he had a good game against Brooklyn. He didn't play as well on Sunday. But this is just kind of what a bad team might. Sometimes it happens. It's like, okay, Brandon Williams and Josh Hart, the difference in like good players and great players in the league is consistency. If they score 25 and 24, the Blazers are going to have a chance. Like, I was joking earlier last week, like Josh Hart had those back-to-back 28-point and 25-point first halves. Like, if the Blazers get 25 in any half from Josh Hart, they're going to be competitive. But the truth is, if he scores 25 plus, like, the Blazers will be competitive in these games. He didn't have that kind of night against the Pacers, and they weren't competitive. Now he had 26 through three quarters, but and his push made it close, and then they just needed to keep it close to have a chance, and it didn't happen. He finishes with he finishes with 26, but nobody else had more than 17. Trent Watford 17 and 8 points, 17 and 8 rebounds. On that one. Drew Eubanks 12 points, 8 rebounds. Off the bench, Chris Dunn 11, Ben Mclemore 11. Ben Mclemore, for my money, still playing too many minutes. We just don't need to see him. Brandon Williams 10 points in this one, finished 2 of 10, 2 of 9 from 3, and 0 of 1 from the only shot he took inside the arc. Like, consistency is just the thing with good teams in the league. The Blazers are low on talent, so it's always going to be a challenge defensively. Like, that's just how this works. It's always going to be a challenge. That you see kind of the highs and lows. They play, okay, they're playing a little better. They go in Wednesday to play the Knicks. They get smoked. Like, they just didn't have it. They come out, they play, hair on fire for one quarter against the Brooklyn Nets, but talent catches up with them. And then the offense never got going early against Indiana, and then they kind of finally find a rhythm, but they've already given up 70 points in the first half, or 69 in the first half, whatever it was. 69 according to my notes, not 70. I don't want to be too generous with the Pacers. And they just weren't in it. But that's okay. Mission accomplished. They continue to lose. The Blazers have now lost 4 in a row and 10 of 11. They're making it happen. A 6-game losing streak, one little win, so you start to feel better. Sorry to the Wizards, and then now have lost 4 straight. They finish out this. They finish out this road trip against the Detroit Pistons on Monday, the second night of a back-to-back. I assume that's part of the reason why Justice Winslow didn't play. You don't play him because you don't play him Sunday because you want to play him Monday. And this game was important to lose. Like I've been saying, this was maybe the Blazers' most important, most significant loss of the season. It matters that they lost. Just out of courtesy, I realized I didn't do the Pacers scoring. Oshae Brissett dominated this game. Oshae Brissett dominated this game. Syracuse's own 24 points, 9 boards. Justin Anderson, 18 in the starting lineup. Had no idea Justin Anderson started for the Pacers, but I found out today. 17 off the bench for Jalen Smith. Dwayne Washington Jr. got busy with 13 points and 6 assists. Ty Halliburton didn't even have a big night, 10 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and the Pacers just rolled because they got going. Oshae Brissett was too active, too physical, too much for the Blazers to handle, and that sometimes that is the difference. I thought the Pacers were just came out with a real energy into the close of the fourth quarter, close the game, 35-16 in the fourth. They just were better. But this was the Blazers' most important loss of the season because this was a chance to catch the Pacers in the bottom of the standings. Coming into this game, the Pacers were 3 games behind the Blazers. Thanks to this win, they're now just 2 back. Indiana holds the 6th worst record in the league. The Blazers hold the 7th. Eyes on the prize as the Blazers climb down the standings, and it's really possible. It probably if the Blazers win this game in Indiana, it's probably not possible for them to catch the Pacers. It's still relatively unlikely. 12 games left, and they need to lose 3 more games than the Pacers in this stretch. They might, but if they didn't lose this game on Sunday, they had no chance. Incredibly important loss, their most important loss of the season. Mission accomplished, hang the banner. Let's tank watch, close the show. Where are the Blazers in the standings? Who are they chasing, and what happened around the league to help them get there? But before we do that, let me tell you about betonline.net, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. The ends of the first and second rounds of the men's and women's NCAA tournament wrapping up right now as we speak. They're currently on the TV right here if you're in my studio with me. But this is just the beginning of a very fun time of year to bet on college hoops. If you don't want to bet on college hoops, betonline.net's got everything else. You can bet on all NBA games that are still rolling along. The NHL's regular season. You can bet on tennis tournaments. You can bet on soccer here and abroad. You can bet on combat sports like MMA and boxing. It's all there for you. More lines, more props than anywhere else. Let's bet online where the game starts. Still a pass first point guard. Still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers. Let's talk about the tank watch. The Blazers get their most important loss of the season. That one's coming on Sunday night. Just a crucially important loss to the Indiana Pacers. Blazers now own the 7th worst record in the league as they chase getting worse. 4 straight losses, like I said, losers of 10 of 11. And now, because of that and crucially important loss to the Pacers, just 2 games back of Indiana. Indiana's got a pretty tough schedule down the stretch. It's going to be tough for the Blazers to out-lose them, to lose 3 more times and catch them. I think the math doesn't favor them. But it's within the realm. Thanks to the loss Sunday, it's within the realm. Certainly, the Blazers might... It gets a little dicey. We'll talk about that in a second. The Blazers just have an easy schedule. I think they're going to win some games here just by virtue of playing some truly bad teams. And being, they need wins. Like, they need wins for the vibes. They might go for it again like they did against Brooklyn on Friday evening. But the Blazers, 7th place, 7th worst record in the league, 2 games back of Indiana. The Spurs are playing right now as I'm recording this. I was going to wait for the evening, but the Spurs are playing right now. They are currently beating the Golden State Warriors by 7 in Oakland in the first half. So if the Spurs win, it would be crucial for the Blazers. The Spurs would move a full game clear of Portland in the standings. If the Spurs lose, they will be tied. But the Blazers play the Spurs 3 more times. I don't think San Antonio is a danger for the Blazers. I think the Blazers are going to find a way to lose 2 out of those 3 at least. If they lose 2 out of those 3, they're going to end up behind the Spurs. Like, the Spurs are going to have the 8th worst record and the Blazers are going to have the 7th. So you're really looking at 2 teams. Can they catch Indiana and can they catch the Kings? Here's the problem. The Kings had a chance today, winning late in the fourth quarter against the Phoenix Suns. They give up a late game-tying baseline jumper from Devin Booker. Devin Booker's a star. He hit it because he's a star. Kings again led in overtime, and then they gave up an ugly, just wide-open sidelines out-of-bound 3 to Landry Shamet to go from up 1 to down 2. Never had a chance in the final 40 seconds because they missed some free throws that they needed to and then chose not to foul at the end of the game. Maybe they're also tanking. Kings, doing that without De'Aaron Fox, who's missed the last couple games with a hand injury, and then they lost Domantas Sabonis at the end of regulation, played the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter without Sabonis. He had some knee-to-knee contact. He stayed in the game for 1 possession, but clearly wasn't right and went to the back, and the Kings lose. Was going to be a really, really important win for the Kings, so the Blazers would have been just 2 games away from Sacramento, but the Kings lost. The Kings now the 5th worst record in the NBA, 2.5 clear of Portland. The math just doesn't look good for the Blazers there. The math doesn't look good. It's definitely, like I said with the Pacers, same thing. Possible, certainly possible, but 12 games to lose 3 more times. I don't like they could catch the Kings because the Kings only have one more win. The Blazers only have one more win than the Kings, certainly there. But so it's, the Kings have 4 more losses, but only one less win. Like it could happen, but I don't think they will. Like I just watching the Kings today, seeing Domantas Sabonis get hurt, seeing De'Aaron Fox get hurt, they're going to be conservative with those injuries. They also just sucked with those guys. I don't think it's going to happen. I think the most likely scenario is that the Blazers stay with this where they are, the 7th worst record in the league. And part of that is the Blazers' relatively easy season to close down the stretch here. Monday night, they play the Detroit Pistons. The Pistons aren't very good. They've been certainly a lot better as of late, but again, one of the bad teams in the NBA, definitely a winnable game. Second night of a back-to-back. The Blazers are not favored in that game by any of the 538 metrics that I've shared with you previously on this podcast. At least the prognosticators see that as a loss, but it's certainly a win. On Wednesday, the Blazers play the Spurs. Incredibly important game to lose. That's at the Moda Center. There's never been a game. I've certainly never attended one in the 8 years I've done this, where the Blazers are going to play a home game where their fans are likely going to be rooting for them to lose. Not all of them, because not everyone's a sicko. But you're listening to Locked On Blazers at this time of the year. You probably are rooting for the Blazers to lose. They need to. If Sunday was incredibly important, Monday, lose all the games or whatever, but Wednesday against the Spurs, an absolutely must lose for Portland. And then Friday, Saturday, 2 home games back-to-back against the Rockets, who stink, one of the worst records in the league. And then followed that up with Oklahoma City on Monday. Like, the next 5 games for the Blazers, they will have a chance to win all of them. I guess they have a chance to win every game, but like they will be talent-wise not a particularly large gap between them and any of those teams. Even assuming perfect health for all those teams, the talent gap won't be that significant. So I'm just looking at it. I'm not sure the Blazers can catch those 2 teams in 5th. There's hope, but I'm not a believer. I've been pretty consistent in not being a believer, so nothing has changed. If the Kings had beaten the Suns today, I maybe would be a little more excited, but it is what it is. The Kings have a weird week and a really big one on Wednesday. They play the Indiana Pacers. The Blazers just need somebody to win. If that game doesn't end in a tie, it's good news for the Blazers. Kings might not have Fox or Sabonis in that one. I think you're better off if the Pacers get that win. I think they're more catchable because they play a bunch of good, because I don't know if there's other wins for the Pacers down the stretch. It makes more sense if they would win that game. They're going to have a lot of losses. They play good teams in the Eastern Conference to close the season. I think you want the Pacers to win, but anybody who wins that game is a big one. The Kings, then they played Sunday. Their next game is Wednesday. Then they have another couple days off and play again Saturday. Really, really light week for the Kings. Saturday against the Orlando Magic, the worst team in the NBA. So the Kings, like I said, it's going to be tough for them to do the Blazers a solid. The Pacers, when you're looking ahead, Thursday against the Grizzlies, Saturday against the Toronto Raptors, as I have it written down here. So it's just not going to be that easy. Like it's just not going to be that easy. We'll see. But I think the Pacers are going to lose both of those games against good teams. I think the Kings are going to win. I think the Kings can probably beat Orlando, so that's a good one that you're absolutely rooting for. But you just never know with Sacramento. Like it's that time of year that we're going to be scoreboard watching. The Blazers play some easy games. You need them to keep on losing those easy games, and you need the teams around them, Indiana and Sacramento, to win. You need the Spurs to win some games. If you're looking at the rest of the standings, New Orleans today with a win on the road against the Atlanta Hawks. CJ McCollum back in action. He's returned from the health and safety protocols and been balling. The Pelicans officially moved into 9th. Lakers and them are going to play in the 9-10 game in the opening round of the play-in, but now it looks like it's going to be in New Orleans. And if I had to bet right now, watching the very bad Los Angeles Lakers, is that they just curl up and die. Like they're roadkill. Like they're just gonna wait there on the side of the road for someone to come scoop them up, and the Pelicans will come scoop them up. That's probably bad news. Pels will have a path to the play-in. They're going to play a bad Lakers team, maybe in New Orleans, likely in New Orleans at this point because they've made the move, unless the Lakers wake up, and I'm tired of waiting for them to wake up. And then they're going to play the loser of the Clippers and the Timberwolves other play-in game with the chance to get into the playoffs and keep their draft pick. The Blazers are going to have one high draft pick, probably not as high as possible, probably not those fifth best odds, and a really legitimate shot at getting a top 4 pick. They're probably going to end up in, the 7th worst record in the West, and the Pels have a path to the playoffs. We will cover all of this as we continue to watch the Blazers' efforts to slide down the standings all week long on Locked On Blazers. We had a bunch of interviews last week talking draft stuff with Raphael Barlow and Candace Cooper, Brooke Olzendam, Blazers sideline reporter, Blazers broadcaster, joined the program on Friday's show to talk all about covering the team, and she just shared some really fun stories. If you've missed any of those, go back and listen. They'll be really good. We'll talk more draft stuff this week. Got a couple interviews that I'm trying to line up. We're going to have fun here, Locked On Blazers, and we're going to root for the Blazers to lose games and rack up odds for the draft pick. It's a weird world we live in, but that is the world it is indeed. So tell your friends about it. Come back and listen 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts. Make it your first listen every day. And if you're looking for us, just search Locked On Blazers. You'll find us on all platforms. Appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.